I mean, I don't care if you come, but you will be marked absent.
Yeah, I'll definitely.
Someone would need to call you in or something. If we don't mark you absent, it's like you're here.
Huh?
I said if we don't mark you absent, that's us saying that you are here at school. If your family thinks you're here at school and you're not, that's a problem.
Oh, it's just
That's why attendance is important.
you did the second. I thought you did the second, but you missed
I don't know. I feel like it's getting too dark.
That's good.
That's how I feel when I have to. It's really not that bad. It's just,
It's annoying.
it just seems like it's gonna be.
Yeah. Well, it's just more work.
very attractive.
It's not bad if you just do it
Honestly,
right
I
away.
hate that stupid formula. I hate that formula.
If you try to
I
factor
already
it
tried
12
for like 5
times,
minutes.
if you try to factor it 12 times and then it doesn't factor, and then it's like you have to just start all over but do quadratic formula, then yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
Very close. He's still alive.
You should do the drug PSA strat. Let's talk about marijuana.
What? I just like complicated. Oh yeah, you know, Hannah's new boyfriend.
You know, like in Albuquerque,
Yeah. Ethan.
I've been told.
they always turn around, they walk up, they turn around the chair. I don't know who you're talking about, but they deserve the
I
guy.
saw you in the place where you buy food. I saw you walking in from outside.
You were buying your food and I saw you. I was like right
I
behind
saw
you.
your girlfriend at,
Where?
gas
In the place where you buy food. Yeah.
The place where you buy
So
food.
Celeste wanted me to tell you she's sorry for doing so bad on her
Specifically that
quiz.
room where you buy food.
So in the cafeteria.
She got like a 9 out of 30.
Specifically the room where you buy the food.
There's corrections on
More
that,
specifically,
so
Well,
it just means she's gonna have more work to do now.
That's what I would consider.
We do-
the cafeteria, like.
Well, not every year. You can't count it next year. But usually the last test we make like a online at-home one just to get one more day of AP testing.
Oh my god.
And there's corrections, but it's like for every one question you miss on the real test, you have to do like 3 to 5 questions in corrections to get your points back. So,
Gotta work for it.
well, or you could just get them right the first time. I mean, it is open note, at home, at your own pace,
Okay.
stuff that we have talked about, stuff that's got to be on the AP test. So if you're missing a bunch, then you got to learn it. Now's the time.
Yeah, she walks out of the gas station. So, gets in the car.
I would
It's gonna be Wednesday, right?
He is obviously stalking
Okay.
me.
Well, I got counted absent on Wednesday.
Like right next to it.
Okay, you left class. I
Yeah.
told you that you needed to make sure you got accounted, change the school business. I can't change it to school business.
Okay.
All I mark is if you're here or not.
Can you change it to I was here? Or
But you weren't here.
but I was giving blood.
Obviously stalking.
But I don't know that.
I can
Some-
show you the proof.
Your girlfriend's Jenna.
So you see how there's that little hole right there on my vein?
You might have just stabbed yourself with a
Just
pencil.
talking.
So there's this right there. That's where they pricked me.
I'm not saying I don't believe you,
Okay.
but there has to be some accountability. All right,
We finished at like
Christian,
2:30, so it was after
Christian.
class.
you heard the bell ring.
Huh?
You heard the bell ring?
I don't know. I wasn't paying attention.
I ain't heard
Oh,
Exactly.
I assume you heard it and are telling me to sit down.
I don't need to tell you to sit down. I'm just going to start counting you tardy.
Tard, I'm in the room.
Tardy is being ready for class, not being in the room.
That sounds like Miss Carlson.
But that's what tardy is.
No, tardy is like
She's like, you have to be in your
class delay.
seat.
Luke's third chair.
Okay, so my job tells me I have to be here by a certain time in the morning. As long as I'm on campus, it's fine. It doesn't matter that there's unsupervised students out here for another however long it takes me.
Well,
Well, he's in the classroom now.
yeah, I'm in my work area.
Yeah, I could be on campus. I'm in my work area.
Well, no.
No, your
I
work
could
area is
be-
the classroom.
No, because like I would be tardy even if I was like out down the hall. I could be tardy there.
You could
Like
be
if
tardy
I-
over there too.
But like that's in the room. That's in a 20-foot proximity.
There's no 20-foot
Why does that thing
rule.
look like a
It's, are you ready for class?
So if I accidentally sit in this seat one day, because like I'm high or something, don't worry, I don't do drugs. I could be counted tardy because I'm not in this one.
If you're not ready for class, I can count you tardy.
Oh, so I can sit over there.
No.
These rules are really confusing, Mr. Chung.
No, it's pretty easy. You come to class on time, you go to your seat.
No, not
and you
in
start.
class on time. In my seat, ready to learn.
Yes, absolutely.
If you're on your phone,
Brian,
you're
I think
tardy.
you're gonna make first.
Okay, we need to get started here. You guys picked up 2 handouts. Both of those handouts together actually make up 108. So this is our unit review. So we've had 3 days where we have been reviewing some Algebra 2 topics. The first day we reviewed some Algebra 1 stuff, although there was a couple things in there that you probably haven't practiced much, like piecewise functions, and some stuff that you probably haven't done before, like direct variation. Then the second day we focused on solving quadratics, but mostly spent time looking at quadratic formulas, since that's the one that you need more practice with and the only one that works 100% of the time. And then finally, last class we looked at some quadratic graphing stuff. And so you pair those up, and then that's pretty much what your review looks like. So one thing I need you to do today is I need you to work through that and identify what questions you need some help with. So some of you need to start on that. But last class with the bookwork, I gave you a chance to ask questions several times, but there may have been a question or two that you had at the end of that assignment that you didn't get to in class. So if you have a question from the end of the assignment that you did not realize you needed help with until you left, go ahead and get that out and let me know what that is so I can help you. Otherwise, go ahead and start on 108, please.
Point slope form.
You need to look that up. That's important.
That's a quick
Sharpen. I think you're gonna get first chair, maybe. Like, do you have to try out for like outside sacks for specific time? I'm just eager.
Diego, you have no book questions?
No.
Good. So if other people have questions, I'll let them ask you. Good. You need to be looking at point slope.
I did.
Good.
I've got it.
You have to know it.
I know it.
Okay.
Y minus y1 equals m times.
Then why are you asking me?
Minus x1. So I just looked it up. And I didn't know before I looked it up, and then you told me to look it up.
Okay, but when we did this 3 classes ago, we talked about it a lot. So
Well,
if
I
you,
thought that was vertex form or whatever that was.
well, I'm just saying, if you forgot it from 3 classes ago, the odds that you remember it next Wednesday, that sounds like something you need to review and study.
Gotcha.
Stand yourself.
Okay, no book questions?
I think I had one, but I'm trying to see what problem it was on.
No, you guys got most of that done last class, and you should have gotten most of your questions answered. I'm just trying to be fair. If there was 1 or 2 that you didn't do until you were outside of class and you needed help on them.
37, the hard one, those.
We do 59.
Sure.
I got it, but it was trying to just do straight around.
Give me just a second, see if I need to record it. All right, question 59 from the book assignment was one that gave you the x-intercepts. So this is kind of backwards from what's normal. But it gave you the x-intercepts, and you were supposed to come up with a quadratic function that would have these as your x-intercepts, and it wants 2 answers. One that opens upwards, and one that opens downward. Okay, so what makes this work kind of backwards is usually you have a factor that you set equal to 0 and solve to find the x-intercept. But this one's giving you the x-intercept and you got to come up with the factor. So what factor, if we set equal to 0 and solve, would give us this?
X minus 1. Oh.
X plus 1 set equal to 0 and solve would be -1, correct? And then what factor could we set equal to 0 and solve and get 4 as an answer? Okay, so there's your two factors. And just a quick rule of thumb. What do you?
Sorry.
All you have to do is x minus the x-intercept. So x minus -1, x minus 4. Doing x minus each of those is how you write those as factors. Now, if I FOIL all this mess together and combine like terms, so here's one of our answers. Is this the one that opens upwards or downwards? Okay, and that is because why? Right. Because right, A is positive, which is how we know it's going to open upwards. So to get the downward version one, I still want these two factors. If I don't have these two factors, I'm going to get different x-intercepts. But I can multiply the whole thing by -1. So if I was to FOIL this stuff again, I'm going to get the same stuff. But if I multiply the whole thing by -1, it doesn't change my factors, so it doesn't change my x-intercepts. So that would look like this. And then how do I know this one's going to open downwards? Right, because A is negative. But it was still created with the same factors, which guarantees it still has the same x-intercepts. So I'm sure I didn't mess that up. Okay, is that enough for that?
Yeah,
Okay.
just wasn't sure how to do it the right way.
That's fine. That's what I want you to ask for. Okay, Diego, did you have something else?
I don't remember, sorry.
Okay. Well, you were raising your hand a second ago.
Yeah, I know, I think I forgot it.
Okay. Other book questions? I don't mind taking more, but if you don't have them, then I'm not going to beg. Okay, then let me set a timer so I can interrupt you here in the next 10 or 15 minutes and try to take some, if not most, of your questions from the first page of the review. The website does have the solutions, so if you want to check your answers as you work through it, that may not be a bad idea. Also, if you came in a little bit later, I just want to address the test. This is the review day that we're giving you, so time to work on the review and ask questions. I know on the assessments over there it says that it is next class. Technically our next class is Monday, but you guys know Monday and Tuesday is ACT Aspire Day. I know a lot of you won't be here. You're a junior or senior. A lot of you guys don't come. Make sure that your parents call you in for that. If you are a 9th or 10th grader, you're doing ACT Aspire all day, so I'm not going to make you do that and then come take a test. But mainly because our class period on Monday is going to be like 15 minutes long. So I don't really even consider that a real class, which is why I'm still just saying next class. So Wednesday is our test.
It'll count towards our exemptions if we don't come.
If it is parent contact or unexcused, yes. The only thing that doesn't count against you is school business, because you have a teacher telling you need to do that.
So we gotta be here.
Sure. I mean, for us, you have to have like 8 or less absences, which is like 3 weeks of school.
Yeah.
If you miss the class 3 weeks, whether your parents are calling you in or not, it's too much for exemption.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with taking the final. Some of you might be able to exemptify one may still take it as a chance to raise your grade. So, yeah.
So, for point slope,
Uh-huh.
slope is 0. Then do I just like write like the y minus y1 equals 0 then?
You could.
Or should I just write out the whole thing?
Well, here's the thing. If, let's say it goes to the point 1, 5 like this. If the slope is 0, 0 times anything is 0. What kind of line has a slope of 0? Horizontal. And what kind of equation does a horizontal line have?
Y equals.
Y equals the number.
Oh, okay.
So if you add that over, that all adds up.
Here.
0 slope, horizontal line. Horizontal lines always have equations that look like that, so it makes sense that it looks like that.
All right. Wait. Oh shoot.
Sorry to ask, but I did have one more from that other sheet.
From the book assignment? Okay. Which one?
Number 17, and it asks you to graph it with the vertex, the line of symmetry, and the x-intercepts.
Okay.
And I don't think the quadratic factors.
Okay.
And I was gonna ask how you find the x-intercepts if it doesn't factor in.
Well, x-intercepts are when y is 0. And there's only one method that always solves the quadratic, even if it doesn't factor.
Quadratic function.
So if it doesn't factor, that's what you have to do.
How do you know it from that?
How do you know if it factors?
Well, no. I guess I was just thinking. About.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with trying to factor it, but at some point, if it's not factoring and you need the x-intercepts, you're going to have to move over to quadratic formula. Depending on, you know, if it's x-intercepts are like 3 plus the square root of 5 and 3 minus the square root of 5, you're never going to figure those out with factoring. It's only quadratic formula. If the zeros are imaginary, or you get I in your answer somewhere, factoring is not going to work because you're never going to think of that combination in factoring. So I would say always try factoring, but if it doesn't look like it's going to factor in the first 15 or 20 seconds, just do quadratic formula.
Okay.
If you know quadratic formula, you plug the numbers in carefully, unless the numbers are just like insanely big and you don't have a calculator, you should be halfway to your answer anyway. So
Do you want us to find the x-intercepts if there's none? Like if they're imaginary? Or
if they're imaginary,
Mhm.
those would be solutions, but they wouldn't be x-intercepts.
like this one just opens up and never hits the axis. So
So it doesn't have x-intercepts.
okay. Okay.
It can. Every quadratic has 2 solutions. If they're real solutions, they'll show up as x-intercepts. If they're imaginary solutions, they won't hit the x-axis.
Okay.
Like the easiest example I can give you is this. This, okay, we know what x squared looks like. This shifts it up 4. So you see how this doesn't have any x-intercepts?
Yeah.
So if you tried to solve it with factoring or quadratic formula or something like that, I'm going to subtract this over and square root both sides, which means plus or minus. Square root of -4 is
2i.
and because these are imaginary solutions, that's why it can't hit the x-axis.
Okay.
Because there's nowhere on the x-axis for 2i and -2i. So even though that doesn't help you graph it, it does confirm that it doesn't hit the x-axis.
you ever learn how to change to standard?
From point slope?
Yeah.
Well, you can do this. Let me make up some numbers real quick. If you know how to do point slope, which is by far the most common thing in calculus, we do this 99% of the time. The only time we don't do this in calculus is in multiple choice questions. Sometimes you might write your answer like this, but they might write it in mx plus b. So you do need to know how to switch it from this to this. But all you have to do is distribute the slope and then undo the minus or add, and then you get it in the other form.
Wait, so standard form is slope intercept, or?
Standard form can mean different things to different people. Your textbook calls standard form what we would call vertex form.
Well, like, yeah, so it would just be,
I'm not concerned with how you write it on your test review. I'm not going to take out points for that. But what will be on the test is, I would highly suggest you know point slope. I feel like we could specifically say, do these in point slope, and if you don't know what point slope is, you're done. And sometimes we may say specifically, put your answer in slope intercept. So, it'll be clear on the test.
What's
So,
point slope useful for?
well, what is slope intercept useful for?
Graphing. It's easy to graph.
Okay, so how would you graph something like this?
13 would be the y-intercept,
Okay,
and then you just draw a line based on the slope, which would be 3.
okay, so you think that's easy to graph?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, don't I know a point up here? -4, 1?
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Oh, you do?
I mean, point, slope, point,
Okay.
we plug, I mean, I made up these numbers
Mhm.
for the sake of this.
Yeah.
But opposite of this gives you a point, -4, 1,
You know, slope would be-
and then slope is 3.
It's pretty easy too.
It's the same thing,
Okay.
yeah. It's just that this is a specific point,
Mhm.
whereas this, the thing is, like, okay, when you start talking in Algebra 1, you do a lot of this stuff because the real life examples you probably look at, it makes sense to kind of start at the, like, the y-axis, you know. You're talking about, like, running or anything, you're pretty much, like, kind of starting at time 0. So, like, it's a start and then how it changes. But in higher mathematics, like, it's probably not this point that I care about. It's some random point where the function's like changing directions, or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is just more versatile because we can get the one point we really care about, and it doesn't have to happen to be the y-intercept point.
Okay.
So,
And also, like, so if I say, hey, make an equation with this slope and goes through this point, well, point slope, you just have to throw the numbers in. If you want to do slope intercept all the time, you know the slope now,
You have to figure out the.
but you got to do some work to find out the y-intercept, which, you know,
Yeah.
why?
Okay.
Just always do this,
Why?
and then if you really need that, you could just distribute your slope and then undo, add, or subtract.
Okay. Yeah.
so that'd just be easier than just like having to like subtract a number over and over if it's like a
Yeah.
farther point.
Slope intercept is more work in the long run. Not every single question. If a question said, here's your y-intercept and here's your slope, then I guess slope intercept is easier. But that's not usually how it goes. Usually there's one point you know, probably not the y-intercept. And then you can find the slope one of several different ways. So,
Interesting.
and then you can always change it to slope intercept if you really care.
Okay.
Which is, again, sometimes in calculus we just do this by default, but then if we look at the choices and they only give you slope intercept, then you're going to have to distribute your slope and do this, but then, like, that's not a big deal.
Yeah.
So. Does Celeste tell you how hard calculus is?
She told me it's hard, but I don't know. She said she thinks first semester is easy.
That's true.
Yeah.
Probably.
My sister said it's reasonable. It's like reasonably hard over like a math class, but then it's not as like hard, she said, as this class was for her
Really?
when she was in this grade. Which I
It
guess
could
makes
just be
sense.
that she was older and more mature and had more math experience under her belt by then too.
Yeah, like just like really like this class is harder in comparison. Is it just like throws at you a bunch of unit circle stuff and a bunch of trig that's like never thrown at you beforehand in like classes besides like geometry maybe.
Okay,
Like
and
geometry-
the same thing's gonna happen in calculus.
Yeah, but she just said that stuff was. Yeah, she. I don't know.
Let's look at what is happening in calculus. Well, look, here's an actual thing that came up the other day that was related to trig. Remember what sine squared plus cosine squared is?
That's
1.
Okay, so the people that remember that trig identity, now you don't understand this, this is the calculus part. But here, if they didn't think to change that to 1, they were done. Like there's no way that they were gonna do that. But once they changed this, then it was very easy. And while that seems basic, you guys have talked about that identity in the last couple months, whereas this might be the 3rd time they've seen it in calculus, but they expect them to know it. It's fair game on the AP test.
So it's like this class is better for like teaching you little things that might like just make your life way
This
easier to remember.
this class is to try to get you a solid background so that when you're introduced to calculus, you can do the background knowledge that they expect you to do. Because there's random unit circle, trig identities, log properties, fractions, exponents,
Just a bunch of rules.
anything, geometry formulas. All of that is fair game. And then you throw calculus on top of it. So if you don't remember half of that stuff you learned at some point, then calculus is really hard. It doesn't matter if you can do the new stuff. You're going to be frustrated because you don't remember this log property to rewrite your answer, or you don't remember how to add these fractions together correctly to get the correct answer.
Is calculus like is the curriculum for calculus? Does it really like just involve like a little bit of everything?
Yes.
Because like
Basically
I feel like
everything
this-
you've ever learned is to build up to calculus.
Yeah, this class just kind of like it's delved into like geometry, it's delved into trig, some calculus now, algebra. So it's just kind of been like just like a bunch of
Yeah, random.
I thought there would be more like calculus, I guess, when before they started taking this class, but really most of first semester was trig.
Mm-hmm.
But
See, you guys do FRQs for other classes?
Sadly, yes.
So here's one from calculus the other day.
There's FRQs in calculus.
Ooh.
That's half of calculus is FRQs.
Nah.
Can I drop
Look
at
at
calculus
that.
right now?
So one part of the question to answer this is you have to understand this calculus to know how to set it up.
I know
You get some answers.
kids in your grade that are in calculus. right
Completely different question.
now.
This one doesn't take much work, but either you know it or you don't, basically. Here's another question where you got to do a bunch of values and compare them, and why to do that. All right, Luke, you need to sit down.
Is Sylvia in calculus?
Huh?
Didn't the book called Standard Form Circle?
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Yes.
but which one? AB or?
AB, yeah. We don't let people go straight to BC.
Oh.
Some schools only offer BC and not AB, yeah. So then they have to do all of AB first semester and then all of BC second semester.
it's weird.
It's way too much, but some schools do it.
Calculus
Yep.
ABC.
Am I correct that on 37?
Okay. You had a question
Sorry.
first.
What's the standard form on this one again? Like grab any of these and explain how.
You can write either one. Just when you check your answer, make sure it's equivalent if it looks different. I would just do point slope.
Okay.
On 37, it's one of those where it gets you the vertex and then a point. So I put in the vertex for like,
Yep.
it was like -2, so I put 2 and then it was 5.
Okay.
So then do you put in the
X
point?
and
It
Y.
was 0, 9, so I put the 9 here for the Y
Mhm.
and then the 0 for the X. That's how I do.
Temporarily, this all for A.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you know what A is, you can go back to that first step that
Okay.
you had plugged in the vertex in.
Okay.
All right, Diego, here's another one. So in this calculus question, part of what they had to do that we don't teach, you just gotta know. Area of a triangle, area of a triangle, area of a semicircle. That's what I mean by just like random geometry things. Sometimes it's a quarter circle. Up here, here's a quarter circle. We had to figure out this area as like one of 8 steps for one answer.
Oh, that's
So you
easy.
just have to like get
Right.
the area of the quarter circle and then subtract
Well, you get the area of the full circle, and then,
like the full square.
Well, the circle is this guy.
yeah.
How does that help you with this?
You gotta find
The square.
the area of the quarter circle in that thing, in that like 3x3.
Okay, so how do you find the area of a circle?
Pi r squared.
It's
Over 4.
That
Okay,
looks tricky.
y over 4.
Huh?
Why are you saying over 4?
maybe pi over
Because it's a kernel circle, quarter circle.
Okay, you're correct. I'm just asking you one. What is the radius of that circle?
3.
Okay, so that is this, but that's not the area I want. I want that.
See, what you want to
You'd
find.
have to get the 3x3, that'd be an area of 9, and then you would just subtract them.
That's correct. But that is like one of 8 steps you need for one answer of our FRQ.
That's
Yikes.
You're really not helping me want to do calculus next year.
How long
I'm
do you
just-
think FRQs
I'm
take?
telling
do it.
Can you
You
make
should
the
do it.
curriculum easier next year?
No,
How long
Absolutely
do the
not.
FRQs take?
Can you make it more
you get
difficult?
you get 15 minutes on average.
Fuck.
Right, and like how many are on
15.
How many are on the AP test?
6.
Oof. So that's basically just like 6 SATs.
As long as I get a D.
Do you think we should take high school calculus before any college one?
It just depends on what you want to do. Calculus is a ton of work, but if the career you want to go into, if you're going to need calculus or they're going to expect you to take calculus to get your degree, then it makes sense to start it in high school. If you don't know what you want to do, it's hard to say. If you know what you want to do and it doesn't require calculus, unless you just love math and you don't mind the work, I mean, I would, if I was you, I would focus my time and energy on something that was going to be toward your career.
I'm doing it because I don't want to pay money for like for the concurrent classes.
Here, the thing is, like, if you took college algebra here, which is one of our concurrent classes, it's like $150.
Just save myself $150.
1.5
No,
birthday.
when you take it at the
No, you
university,
lost money.
3-hour, well, college algebra is probably a 4-hour class. It's a couple $1,000. Plus, you're gonna have to buy the book, which is probably $100 or $200.
That's stupid.
But if
Yeah.
you take an AP and you pass the exam.
But that's a big if. That's not an automatic.
Huh?
That's not an automatic.
Automatic for Diego.
Yeah, I know. But like, I'm saying, if I pass the
If you
classes,
pass it, yeah.
if I pass the APs, the AP exams, then I
Okay,
would
but-
be able to just skip them with the credits if they take them.
That's correct.
Yeah. Rather than paying.
That's true.
I'm new to like all this like credit stuff because at
Uh-huh.
OCA, everybody took all the same classes, and then once you were graduated as a senior, you just automatically had all the classes add up. But here, it's like, so at the end of this year, I'll have enough science and math credits to graduate, but not enough English and history. Would I be able to take 2 English and 2?
Probably not. You need to go,
You have to take
the
athletic.
school website is bayar.net. If you go on there and you find the section for CAP stuff, the career and academic planning, there'll be a section in the CAP book for English classes. So that you can look at the classes and see, okay, this one you can take as 11th or 12th grader, this one you can take as a 12th grader, this one you can only take as a 9th grader. So that would show you what your options are. So if you could find 2 English classes that you haven't already taken, those could count. But the issue is, Like, they're not gonna let you take senior English until you have junior English. It's a prerequisite. So then usually that's what keeps you from taking two at once. Like in math, we don't let anyone double up unless they double up with geometry and algebra 2. Like, that's your one chance to double up. But after that, you can't double up, so.
I just crashed by getting like a syntax.
But it doesn't also hurt to just go send your counselor an email and talk to them, because they could probably lay it all out for you a little bit better. And
But like,
System 30.
or like would junior English and like senior English, like are those required, or do you just need enough English credits?
you have to have 4 English credits. Most students are going to take junior English for 11th grade, senior English for 12th grade, but there's different classes you could take instead of junior English, and there's different classes you could take instead of senior English.
So couldn't you
But typically those are like,
delete that to like
junior and
display
senior
it?
English will be like the easiest version of what you can do to get the credit. The other versions are harder versions.
You probably still
So.
have your hard drive on it.
So
You
don't do it unless you
like,
go
go
over
to the actual like
that specific
main
stuff.
motherboard of your computer, like somehow. put it
They probably wouldn't even let you.
Set it back
I don't
up.
think they'll let you do it that way, but
So like
like I said, I don't know all the ins and outs of the English stuff. That's why the cat book will show the prerequisites
Kinda
of
like
the class.
It's
So.
kinda like your
Okay, guys, it's been a little bit here, so I need to take a couple questions from this review so I can help out anything that's kind of holding you back here. On the front page, any of those questions that stand out to you?
Did you say I can just use anything for standard form?
I'll make it clear on the test.
Okay.
If I was you on the review, I would just do point slope
Okay, that's what I've been doing.
and then check your answer and make sure it's equivalent. But
yeah, so for C you do have to turn it into slope intercept to be able to get like the slope and stuff.
did you get the slope out of this guy?
Yeah,
Yes.
okay. I just wanted to make sure that was correct.
Mhm. You want to figure out what his slope is, because you want the same slope, because you want yours to be parallel.
And after that, like what would you do to get to easily get like the to change the standard form?
Well, okay, so what is the slope of this guy?
3 over 4.
Okay, so if I want mine to be parallel, I want the same slope.
Yeah.
If I know the point I wanted to go through, if you know point slope, it just matters throwing the numbers in the right spot.
Yeah.
And then if you're determined to put it in slope intercept, or if it specifically says you have to do slope intercept, just distribute the slope and then undo, add with subtract.
They draw little arrows on it.
And then it's in
Oh.
slope intercept.
Okay.
So you can always start with point slope and then change it if you need to.
So just be like, just find slope and distribute.
Oh, you just erase that and erase that.
Just solve this for y equals is basically what you're doing.
Okay. Yeah.
So you're trying to distribute this and then get that on the other side.
Okay.
Just like if you wanted to graph it in your calculator. Your calculator doesn't let you graph y plus 3. You have to subtract that 3 over so that you can enter it in as y equals when you throw it in.
Okay, what about this part?
Okay, somebody else on the front page?
These ones, S and not a Z, right?
I think it's a C, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
It's peace and wise. Like, I'm as wise as an old tree.
Okay, I'm just making sure I wasn't making what?
I have no idea. Okay, other math questions that you have ready to go?
How are we supposed to graph this
What is
I think
this?
we went over that
Sorry.
stuff on the.
on 3?
Okay.
You have a red microwave, that's crazy.
What does that have to do with anything, Christian?
I'm sorry, I've never seen a colored
Okay,
microwave.
but you don't need to say anything about it.
Yeah, we went over that on.
My favorite color is red.
No, it's not how do you do it, there was this one that didn't look like it made sense of like it wouldn't fit on the graph, but I guess sorry.
Are you sure?
Yeah, it's just the first 2 pieces.
Okay.
What?
Okay, I'm gonna reset the timer then, because it doesn't seem like I'll have real pressing math questions. What?
5 for the continuous function, fine. F14, that's a plane. Sorry, anyways. -2, F6, F10.
Okay.
What does that mean?
This is asking you for a point. When x is 14, what is y? Well, you need your graph up here. When x is 14, y is 2. We reviewed this on the top of worksheet 2, section 1.1.
I get that now.
It's just a different way to ask for a point.
5, 2, no.
Oh, that's a Actually, sorry to go back. Can you do number 3 and keep thinking I can get it?
Okay, so number 3, this is called what?
Piecewise function.
Okay, so sometimes it's y equals negative x minus 2. How do I graph that?
You go down to,
And then just negative.
Before that.
you go -2,
Okay.
-2,
Like that?
go to that point.
Okay, so slope of -1, y-intercept of -2. That's what negative x minus 2 looks like.
But then you would only go for the stuff that's less than or equal to.
Okay,
So you would erase that.
I agree with that. Okay, next piece of the piecewise function. X plus 2 is,
You go to 2, the y-intercept is
2, there's more than one 2. Which 2?
positive 2.
There's more than one positive 2.
You go y equals 2.
The y-intercept, you'll need to use math terminology here. The y-intercept is positive 2.
Yeah.
The slope is,
1. Yeah.
so that's what that line looks like. But we should only keep this part of it.
Uh-huh.
From here to positive 2. Okay, the next one is y equals 3. What does that look like?
Straight.
All lines are straight.
Well, I
It would
mean,
be a
line with
horizontal
a slope of 0 at
Slope is 0, horizontal, both those are fine. But we should only keep the part of it where x is greater than 2 and less than or equal to 4. That piece. You still with me?
yes.
Okay. And then the last time, but the thing is, if you can do 2 pieces of this, you can do 20 pieces of it. It's just more, it's a little bit more taxing, but a
Or so
little.
my question was, how do they want you to, I don't know.
Do like the circle.
No, I'll just see it, slash.
That's negative 3/4 x plus 6, but only when x is greater than 4. Are you okay with that part too?
Yeah.
Let's go. It's like. Do it that much. It's like water, just like. My bad.
How do you know when?
Wait. Wrestling one? Junior, you think I can make this? You sophomore?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I know that doesn't come out.
Plenty of classes together.
Take it back. I didn't think that was out there.
Appreciate it.
Whoa.
No.
Mr. Townsend, I've got a question.
It needs to be math related.
I don't have a question anymore. I just asked Siri.
Are you done with page 1?
Well, I need help on 6.
Well, I just took questions. Why didn't you ask?
Huh?
I just took questions. Why didn't you ask?
Those are the math.
Okay, well, you're down to 35 minutes to ask the rest of your questions, so you need to be hustling. Okay, what is your question about number 6?
I don't know what any of these words are.
Well, that's part of what you're supposed to know.
Oh, every quadratic function has square roots.
What makes a quadratic function?
X squared.
So that means degree,
2.
whereas a linear function has degree.
1. Linear function is a
Exponential function.
no. A quadratic function is exponential, right?
Yeah, that's what
I don't know what they're looking. I don't know about the words here. I didn't make this. I would say quadratic is like a parabola, maybe.
A parabola function.
I mean, yeah, that's weird wording, but
Okay. Wait, a linear.
oh, I bet they're looking for like polynomial. Polynomial, but the degree is 1, and polynomial, the degree is 2. That would be my best guess. I didn't make this. I didn't choose the wording of this.
Stealing work, aren't you?
No. You know, we do the same things, so we can't all create everything and do the same things.
Is this copyrighted to you, Mr. Townsend?
You don't copyright this stuff.
Can't copyright education guys.
What are these
Actually,
for?
yeah, you can.
So every quadratic has how many roots?
Square roots. Oh.
How many? Number.
2 roots. 1
Okay.
root.
2.
roots.
How many roots does this one have?
Okay. 1. Oh.
Has 2 real roots. That's why they're x-intercepts. How many?
0.
Good. It has 2 roots, but both of them are imaginary. That's why they're not x-intercepts. And this would be what?
It looks like 2, but I'm gonna say 1.
Yeah, it's supposed to be 1.
Look at that. Finish
Something
one
like
page.
if you had a quadratic that looked like this, it factors like this, so you get the same x-intercept twice. That's when it looks like that,
Oh.
because you only get one unique one, so it touches the x-axis and bounces off of it.
Gotcha. Only at one point.
If you get the same value
Yeah.
2 times, this would be like you get 0 and -3. This would be like you get 2i and -2i, something imaginary. Okay, I need to take questions from page 2. So on the back of this, any of those stand out? Okay. I will check back in, but we are down to about 30 minutes, so we need to be moving along.
This is homework, right?
You really should be finishing in class because this is your last chance to ask questions. I've been trying to get y'all to get on task.
I've been on task. Just slowly tasking. Is that a word?
You're not helping yourself, Chris.
Probably not.
K is the constant of
Like, how do we find K?
it's the same as slope.
Or the same as the.
Constant of variation.
You gotta plug it back in.
Oh, it's the same as the slope.
It's just a different word for slope when you're talking about direct variation.
Oh.
But that's the type of thing I can't tell you on the test, so you need to write it down to make sure you know.
Well, on my paper, I just says K equals, and I don't have anything written after it. So K equals M,
Mm-hmm.
I see.
but how do we know what M is in a parabola?
It's not a parabola. What question are you looking at?
7.
Where does it say anything about constant of variation or K?
to the vertex one.
Oh, that K.
What, there's another K?
Yes.
Oh my goodness, how am I supposed to remember the other K?
By learning.
Dang!
Vertex is HK. So the K you're referring to is the Y value of the vertex.
Yeah. Yeah, so the Y value of the vertex.
Yes. That's what we did in class last time.
Oh, yeah, I can do that, right? So. 3. One subtractive 3. Do I plug in 3?
What's the, you need to find H first.
Yeah, H is 3.
Okay. Well, if you know the, if you want to know the Y value when X is 3, just like any equation, you plug 3 into the equation and solve for Y
In the,
into the function.
That's not like weeks of practice, that's just a couple rehearsals. Yeah, some of them are not possible. You need to put it this way, right? Instead of possible. I honestly enjoy like really anything else other than this one. I know it sounds dumb because you got the instrument for it, but it's just like.
Math isn't working, Mr. Townsend.
I don't know.
I plugged 3 into it, and I'm getting
It's not that I hate
-2,
them,
isn't
they're
it?
just like.
You got a good instrument.
But it's a
Yeah, it's
parabola
like the
going
instrument for it,
like
but
this
it's-
way.
I think they're a lot less cool when you play them.
I'm getting -2.
Yeah, that's what I got.
I don't know.
So 3, -2 would be your vertex.
Probably.
3 -2, but
That's cooler because you get to go across. From
the Y
Thing is,
intercept
it
is
doesn't-
7.
Huh?
I feel like
The
the
Y-intercept is
marimba's kinda
7,
worse
right?
for
Okay.
glissando because
Correct.
the sound isn't as like sudden.
And
sounds the exact
the,
You just have to use a harder mallet. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I think
X's
it'll just
are
be cool
7
with
and
any sort of like
-1.
keyboard.
That didn't make
function or
sense.
whatnot that's not-
But I factored that one up there and I got the
Last
X
year we looked at
intercept.
Shepherd Head.
No.
Did I do that wrong?
Sheely
So
had
that's what-
Sounds like it.
crazy Glissando part.
I think it would factor as an X minus 7 and an X.
It's about to go like this.
+1.
Oh, I can't remember that.
Yeah.
I couldn't picture what you're talking about.
Alright, I finished.
Good
all
for
of
you.
the- And I checked my answers.
Good for you, buddy.
Let me try to.
Very great.
I don't know.
I don't know what I'm doing wrong.
You have the text.
So I don't know what I'm doing, so. that
Okay,
is what-
I agree with your y-intercept. I didn't check your vertex. You see, if we do negative b over 2 times a, looks like it would be 3. That sounds good. Plug in 3 and 3,
Hold on.
you get -2. Okay, I'm with you there.
Is it
If you
done?
factor this,
Huh?
How's tennis?
Good. We're in off season. It's fall. We're about
looks like you should have x-intercepts at,
No.
I haven't really
7 and -1.
Some of the stuff, like the vocab.
Oh, mine is 1 right now, Miss
Okay.
Johnson.
Vocab.
Mhm.
Otherwise, not really know.
Nice.
And are we done yet? No.
Braden, how'd you do this one? 7?
we're missing some arithmetic, something on here is off.
Yeah.
We must be making the same mistake though.
Uh, I got
Did you check your answers, Braden?
I did.
Okay.
I got for the vertex form y equals x minus 3 squared minus 2.
Oh, I know what we did. This is not factored correctly. X times x is x squared.
Yeah.
What's -7 times 1?
Negative 7.
It's supposed to be +7.
Oh, yeah, you
It doesn't factor that way.
did.
That doesn't factor, you have to use quadratic formula.
It just says to change it to vertex form.
Oh, okay. I was trying to like graph it with the x-intercept, so I'll just do that. So what is it?
The thing is, the x-intercepts are some weird decimal, that's why it's not factoring nicely. You're only gonna figure those out from quadratic formula. But it doesn't sound like it asked for them down here. Oh, yeah, it does.
It does, but on the review you wrote, you used the quadratic formula.
Yeah, I
And
was just
got the
saying.
correct answer.
When did we learn point slope?
Section 1.1.
Okay. I forgot how to do it. Basically just y minus.
y1
Okay.
equals m parentheses x minus x1. The point unit goes in for x1, y1, and the slope goes in for m.
Oh, wow.
That was 1.1. What are we right now? 1 point.
1.1 and 2.1 are the two things we did. 1.1 was 3 worksheets. Okay, I need to give you guys a chance to ask questions from the 3rd page. Like 7 through 8, 7 and 8, or all of its parts, any of its parts. Okay, I realize you may not know all of your questions yet, but on the back page, 3 more, solving equations, solving quadratics, some graphing questions. Any of those you know that you need to ask about? Okay, I will check back in one more time to make sure that we have time for questions. So, I can only give you about 8 minutes here, and then you need to know which ones you might be interested in asking.
Mr. Jackson. I mean, Mr. Townsend, my school.
Yes, what you
I
need?
don't know when I'm gonna get that figured out. I have a question about number, 8A.
Okay,
I was looking on, like, the solutions, how you got it started,
okay.
but I'm confused where you got the 24 from. Like, you changed the -5. I know why you changed the -5.
Okay.
To 8x plus 3x, but I'm confused how you got there.
Well, 90% of the time, I just do guess and check. I know 2x times x gives me 2x squared. I think about what times what could be -12. And then when I guess that, I FOIL all this together and make sure it's -5x. But sometimes factoring doesn't work out for us. So it sounds like maybe what's on the solutions was product sum, which was the factoring type of method that I showed you guys earlier this year. If you take a times c, that's -24. If you can find two numbers that multiply two numbers that can multiply to -24 but add up to b. So I picked -8 and +3. If you split up this middle term with those two terms that meet those two requirements,
You can do the,
factor by grouping will work out perfectly, which you need to know how to do anyway. Because then you can just do GCF, GCF. These two are supposed to be the same, and they are. And then the other parts are 2x plus 3. So, it's a longer way to factor, but it's also, I don't know, it's a good backup method where that process will always work if you practice it. So.
I completely forgot about that.
You need to practice it sometimes, because even if you don't need it often, when something doesn't factor and you're on a test and you need it, and maybe 10 points are dependent on you working with that same function, you don't want to just stare at it all day and hope that it comes to you. You want, like, it took me a minute, but at least I got it factored.
still form like it's 13 or science and literature. These, you know, who are actually
Close.
Hey, buddy. Maybe you celebrate you look up like how to do it. I just used, remember how we used to just like we did just make random text for you. Yeah.
Okay, in order to have time to answer your last questions, I need to interrupt you and give you one more chance. Anything from any page that looks unfamiliar that you want some more assistance on. Again, I know our test is not till next Wednesday, but this is pretty much the last time I'm going to see you, because Monday is a very short class. There won't be time to review on Monday. Alright, for those of you, especially if you think you may not be here on Monday, you need to jot down somewhere to remind yourself about the test on Wednesday. If you're here on Monday, then I will remind you, but I will also be collecting the book assignment and this review worksheet. Both of those are in Google Classroom so that you guys can turn those in as you finish. But that is the plan. Then we'll move on to another unit. So again, I told you this algebra stuff can be easier if you remember a lot of it, but if you guys have forgotten a lot of it, then you need to be putting in extra work to get caught up.